Hey everyone, this is Baram Shiwazi at RPP Baseball. Thanks for joining me for this webinar. We are here today to talk about blast motion and its many metrics. Blast is a relatively inexpensive and small sensor that can be attached to the knob of the bat pretty easily. The sensor collects a variety of data as the batter swings the bat. It actually tells you quite a bit about your swing metrics, but the information can be a little bit cryptic and hard to understand for the first-time user. So we've prepared this webinar to give everyone a little bit more context and hopefully a better understanding of these metrics. Let's go. We've been using Blast Motion for a while. Honestly, we're big fans. If you don't own one, you really should. As I mentioned before, they're not really too expensive. The Blast sensor provides three different scores, what they call the plane score, the connection score, and the rotation score. But in our programs, we tend to focus on the underlying metrics of those scores. And they get a lot more specific about your swing and your swing metrics. There are about 10 of them in total, but we generally just focus on 6, and we're going to talk about those next. So here we go. Plane, which is comprised of on-plane efficiency percentage and the tack angle. Connection, which is comprised of early connection and connection at impact. And then rotation, which is about your bat speed and your rotational acceleration. The other 4 metrics in the bottom, Blast refers to them as metrics for context. They can be helpful if you're trying to track something additional down, but the first 6 really are where we spend the vast majority of our time on. So let's go over each individually. So on-plane efficiency percentage is basically an evaluation of your swing as it moves through space. The idea is what percentage of your swing was on plane, and plane being defined as the vertical bat angle at which you made contact. On the next slide, we'll show you visually, but generally, Blast suggests that you have an on-plane efficiency percentage at 70% or higher, with hopefully an average in the range of 65 to 85%. Here's a visual for on-plane efficiency percentage. You see 2 solid yellow lines on this page, which basically define the vertical bat angle. It's measured from the front, and it's the angle at which you're making contact relative to a horizontal line. The plane is defined as that angle as you're making contact, and on-plane efficiency percentage is basically measuring what percent of your swing was on that plane. The higher the percentage, the smoother your swing, and basically, according to Blast, the more consistent your contact will be. Next up is the attack angle. Attack angle is the angle of the bat's path at impact relative to the horizontal, but this time it's measured from the side and not the front. A positive value indicates that at the point of contact, your bat's moving up. A negative value says that it's moving down, and a 0 basically implies that you have a flat swing. We have a visual on this on the next slide, but essentially an incoming pitch, a fastball, has a downward angle of about 5 to 7 degrees. A breaking ball has a downward angle of about 10 to 13 degrees. Blast recommends ranges that we've further refined, and we believe that your attack angle should be somewhere in the 5 to 7 degrees on the low side and 13 to 14 degrees on the high side. You definitely have a range. There's no such thing as a specific number that you swing every single time. But the idea is to be on plane with the incoming pitch, and you want to match your attack angle to what generally is coming towards you so that you can be on plane with the incoming ball. This is a pretty good visual of a attack angle. In this case, it's a positive attack angle. The blue line is the path of the bat, the black line is the horizontal, and the difference between the two is what's considered the attack angle. As we mentioned on the prior slide, a flat swing, where the blue line would be right on top of the black line, would be considered a 0-degree attack angle. And if the blue line moves below the black line, that would be considered a negative attack angle. We generally want an attack angle in the 5 degrees on the low end to 13, 14 degrees on the high end. Okay, next up is the connection score, and early connection being the first metric. Early connection's basically the angle of the bat relative to your spine prior to the start of your swing. It measures the relationship between your body tilt and the bat angle. We have a visual on the next slide to show you, but Blast generally is recommending a 90 degrees angle between your spine and the angle of your bat. Here's a good visual of the early connection. You can see the two orange lines between the spine and the bat, and that's the measurement that they refer to as the early connection. As we mentioned, Blast is recommending a 90-degree angle between those two positions. Now we're talking about the connection at impact, which is the other end of the swing. Here we're talking about the angle between your spine and the angle of your bat at the point of contact. Once again, Blast is recommending a 90-degree angle at contact, but it's important to note that in addition to the angles on early connection and connection at impact, Blast suggests that the difference between those two angles to be no more than 15 degrees to make for a more consistent swing. Now let's look at a visual. Now here's that picture on connection at impact. As you can see, it's at the other end when you're making contact with the ball. Once again, it's the angle between the spine and the angle of the bat as it's making contact. As we mentioned, Blast recommends about a 90-degree angle. So now we're up to the rotation score. The rotation score is made up of two metrics, bat speed and rotational acceleration. Bat speed is what everyone talks about, obviously. For Blast, this measurement is what they consider to be the sweet spot of the bat at impact, and it's measured 6 inches from the tip of the bat. I don't think it needs any further explanation since most people know what this is. Okay, now we're talking about rotational acceleration, one of the most impactful metrics that Blast provides. I do think that most people misunderstand when this measure is taken, so we have a couple of really good visuals on the next two slides that basically demonstrates that. A high rotational acceleration generally means better sequencing, more power at contact, and definitely more time to decide at the plate whether you're going to take a swing or not. Let's look at a couple of pictures and get a better sense for when this is measured. Okay, so this is from Blast. So they're basically showing us exactly when this measurement's occurring. It's a front view, and I think you get a pretty good idea that it's a lot earlier in the swing than most people think. I'm going to be quiet so you can take a look here and kind of get a sense for yourself. Here's another visual, but this one from the top. I think this gives you a really good sense of when this measurement's taken. As you can see, it's very early in the swing. And once again, I'll just let you take a look here and get a sense for when this measurement's occurring. Now we have a chart that basically tells you what bat speed and rotational acceleration might look like for different levels of the game, all the way from the youth level up to the pros. As you can see, at the pro level, you got bat speeds 68 to 78 miles an hour and rotational acceleration in the mid to the upper teens. If you're below the metrics by level, you definitely want to work on it. And if you're above it, I guess that's a good thing. The last four metrics that Blast provides, a vertical bat angle, time to contact, peak hand speed, and power. In our opinion, these are derivatives of everything else that's happening in the swing. We don't really focus on these from a training standpoint. Although we do look at them, we don't really spend a lot of time incorporating them into our training programs. Okay, here's the chart on these last four metrics from a reference standpoint provided by Blast. You can kind of see where you sit within these ranges given these four metrics. As I mentioned earlier, we don't really incorporate these too much in our training programs. I want to thank everyone for listening in. I hope this has been helpful. And hey, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions on these topics. Thanks.
I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. If you're interested in our training material on pitching, hitting, or strength training, you can reach us at rocklandpeakperformance.com or on Twitter and Instagram at RPP_baseball. You can also call our front desk at 201-308 888-888-3363 or email us at rpp@rocklandpeakperformance.com. Also, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel on the way out.